Okay, this video is all about plotting graphs with x and y on the same side of the equation. Often see it in the MYP5 exam. So you hopefully know how straight line equations can be written as y equals something x plus something else, and those numbers that I'm calling m and c here, mx plus c, they're connected with the graphs. And the number in front of x tells you the gradient of the graph, or how steep it is. And then the number on the end tells you the intercept. That's where it's going to cut the y-axis, the vertical axis. So for example, just by looking at the equation y equals 2x plus 4, I don't need to make a table of values. I could make a table of values of different x's and then work out all the y's and then plot all the points on a graph until I get a straight line. But just looking at that, I know from the plus 4 on the end that it's going to cut at 4. So cut the y-axis at 4, the vertical intercept is going to be 4, and then it's going to have a gradient of 2 because of the 2 in front of x. So that means it's going to have a steepness of 2. For every 1 across, it's going to go 2 up. So all I need to do on my graph axis is to identify the fact that it's going to cut at 4 there, and then for every 1 across, it's going to go up by 2. 1 across, up by 2. Or make your life easier and just go 3 across, 6 up. 3 across, 6 up when you're drawing it. So there it is, and always good practice to label any line that represents a function with that function itself. Okay, so this video is all about when you get x and y on the same side of the equation. So something x plus something y equals a number. So one way to do this would be to just rearrange it so that it looks like the familiar y equals mx plus c. So I'm just going to give myself a little bit more space here by shifting that 24 over there. And then I'm going to take the 3x away to try and get the y on its own. So I've taken away the 3x, and then of course I've got to take it away the other side. So 4y equals minus 3x plus 24. That's why I left that space there. And then I don't want to know what 4y's are. I want to know what a single y is. So I've got to divide everything by 4. But then I've got to do that on the other side as well. So y equals 0.75x plus 6. So one way to do this is to just rearrange this into the familiar y equals something x and something else. And then you know immediately from that that it's going to cut at 6 because of the plus 6, and it's going to have a gradient of minus 0.75, which is minus 3/4. So for every 1 across, minus 3/4 down. For every 1 across, minus 3/4. Or to make your life easier, you might as well say for every 4 across, 3 down. For every 4 across, 3 down, if for every 1 across it's going 3/4 down. But anyway, so that's one way to do it, and I suggest that's not the best way to do it. So this is how I would do it. So I've got 3x plus 4y equals 24, and I'm going to think about what happens when x is 0. So when x is 0, you just get the 4y equals 24 because the x being 0 would disappear. And 4y equals 24, so that means y must be 6. So when x equals 0, y equals 6. Now I'm going to think about when y equals 0. So when y equals 0, that middle bit will disappear because it's 0. So instead of 3x plus something with y equals 24, all the y's disappearing, and I get 3x equals 24. So x must be 8 dividing by 3. So when y equals 0, x equals 8. So think about that again. When x equals 0, y equals 6. When y equals 0, x equals 8. those are 2 points that are going to be on the graph. So when x equals 0, y equals 6, that means it goes through the point 0, 6 on the graph. X equals 0, y equals 6. When y equals 0, x equals 8. So that means it's going to go through the point 8, 0 on the graph, representing x being 8 and y being 0. So if we can figure out the 2 points where it cuts the axis, and we know it's going to be a straight line, just got to join them up. And that gave me exactly the same graph as, just go back a bit, as before. So the graph I had before went through 6 and 8 on the axes, but doing it that way, where you think about where it cuts those axes, I found a lot easier. So if you happen to see one with the x and the y on the same side, rather than one that is in a nice y equals something, x plus something, then do think about doing it that way, where you just figure out where it cuts the axes and join the 2 points up.